Hello creative friends, my name is Susie and I am the owner of the Speckled Loon. Welcome to my channel. If you have never been here before, I want to say thank you for finding us and I hope you like the content enough to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. If you are a returning subscriber, welcome back and I hope you will give this video a like as well. This video is all about our winter 2023 DIY Decor Kit Quarterly Subscription Box. We introduced our quarterly boxes earlier this year, and the winter kit will be available in November 2023. If you subscribe to our box, it means that every 3 months you will get a box of unfinished DIY decor projects from our workshop sent right to your door. Each box is full of fun base pieces with interchangeable sets that will work for the current seasons and holidays. All the projects are small, easy to complete, and you can display them on your favorite accent shelf or tiered tray. And then just store them in the box they came in when they're not in use. The instructions in this video are for the winter 2023 installment of our quarterly subscription box. If you are interested in joining the box membership, I encourage you to get on our wait list. We open it up for new subscribers a few times a year. The link to join the wait list is in the text below this video. If you are on the wait list, you will get first chance to claim a box when we are accepting new members. Our kits include everything you need to finish the projects except the paint. I want you to use the paint and colors you love and probably already have on hand. But as we go along, I will let you know the paint colors and brands that I use in case you want to duplicate the look that I've created. So let's get started completing the projects in this awesome box. It's time to let your creativity flow. It's time to see what the kit looks like when it comes to you in the mail. It's going to arrive wrapped in a poly mailer around a little box similar to this. It's about 9x6x4. It's got everything packed inside and individually wrapped and labeled, and all your base pieces. You can see the bottle base pieces in there. And when you're not using it, everything stores back in the box. Your instructions and everything will be in there as well. This box has got 3 base themes: Valentine's Day, Hot Cocoa Bar, and Mr. and Mrs. Claus North Pole Baking Company. And all the packages are in there for each one. Now each set has got a small circle insert that goes into the little house cutout, and a banner that hangs off the front of the house, and then 3 little pieces of decor that are going to sit inside the little fence base of the house that I'll show you in just a moment. And there's also a square sign and a bottle tag for each set. This is the little house, and as you can see, it's got a magnet on the back of the circle and it sticks to that metal disc, and then there's hooks for that little banner and they hang right off the front, and then your little pieces of decor go right into that little fence shelf area. This goes into the square frame. It is a square frame insert and each set has one. It just rests right in there, and there's also a stand for that. And then there is the bottle tag that goes around this stainless steel bottle, and also a nice little wooden coaster for the bottle to serve as a stand. And in the middle there you'll see a wood beaded garland that matches all the sets. And the other 2 sets are the hot cocoa and the North Pole Baking Company. Let's go over all the great tools and extras that you are going to get in your kit. First off, you are going to get a batch of some flat end swabs. They are great for applying paint on small items, for general cleanup, and using for like doing little dots and things like that on your projects. You're going to get a pack of foam makeup wedges. You can rinse these out and use them for different colors, or if the paint gets dried on them, just snip off the dried part and continue using the wedge. You're going to get a small tube of gel super glue. It's got a precision applicator, and if you need to put on super little drops, just put a little bit on a toothpick and then apply it to your project in very small portions. The toothpicks are also great for cleaning out scored lines. You're going to get 3 magnets and a metal disc. Those are for those circle pieces that go in the top of the house. And then you're going to get a full set of kind of printed inventory sheets and instructions. You get this video, and then I have all the project resources linked of projects I use or products that I use below. You're going to get some bonus crafting tools. They're going to come in this cute little burlap bag, and you can reuse this as a gift bag or stuff it with the tissue and the packing material that comes in your box and use it as part of your display. The next item you're going to get is a precision pin pen, and that little pin is retractable, and it's great for cleaning out the scored lines in your project or cleaning up little bits of paint. And you can also use it as a pickup tool, or if you've got a Cricut or a vinyl cutter, you can use it for weeding your vinyl. The final bonus crafting tool is a set of clamps, and they are great for holding your glued pieces together while the glue sets. You'll see me using them throughout the projects today. And the great thing about all these bonus tools is you can use them on your future kits as well. You're going to also get a small little pack of random sized stands. The little projects that go inside the fence can stand in these, and there's going to be at least one in there that has a little thicker opening that the 2 layered pieces like your Santa can sit in. Now you're going to need to provide a few things on your own, and what that is mainly is the paint. You can pick whatever brands or types you like. I really like to use chalk paint, and the reason why is it covers in fewer coats, but if you've got the acrylic craft paint from the craft store, that'll work just fine. Same with paint brushes. I provide you the foam wedges for painting, but if you've got brushes you like, use what you like to use. That's fine. That's totally up to you. And then for the smaller pieces, I really love and adore to use paint markers. I have got a set of bullet tip ones and fine tip ones from Arteza. And for cutting the string, and if there's ever ribbon in your kit, you're going to need a good pair of sharp scissors. Fabric ones are best. You can also grab a couple of paper plates. You can mix your paint on it. It protects your surface, and it's great. And you can just toss them when you're done. Finally, a bit of painter's tape or masking tape to mask off areas when painting, or make a little loop for a double-sided sticky for your small items. And then just for some general cleanup, a pack of baby wipes or wet paper towels will do just fine. This kit comes with 4 base pieces. You've got your little house with the shelf, a small bottle we're going to hang tags off of, and it has a coaster base, a square frame base with a stand, and a nice wood bead garland. We are going to do the easiest one first, which is the interchangeable bottle and base. Basically, it is this cute little wood coaster, and we're going to put some half beads on the bottom of it, and on top of it you're going to put the bottle, and then the bottle's got tags that are going to hang over it. So you want to locate in your pack this little wrapped up piece of square wood, and there'll be 4 half beads on the back. Take everything out of the bag, and if you do have a piece of sandpaper handy, grab that, and you're going to just play with the placement of these, but basically you are going to glue one of these in each corner. You can scuff up the beads and the back of the coaster with a bit of sandpaper. It will make it adhere a little better, but as long as you just press it down right after you apply the glue, that should work. The super glue does work great, but if you've got wood glue, that will work too. It just takes longer to set up, and then you just maybe want to tape it down with a little masking tape or painter's tape while that's setting up. But basically after a couple of minutes, it's going to be all dry. You can turn it over and then it's ready to be your base for your bottle. Now, how this bottle becomes a crafting project is, we have got 3 tags that you're going to hang around the top of them, one for each one of our sets. One for the Milk for Santa, we've got the hot cocoa one, and the third one says Love Potion number 9 for the Valentine set. They are all wrapped together with a piece of string already pre-cut for each one, and there's ample amount of string. And you don't really even have to cut the string at all on your own. So here's how you will do all 3 of the tags. They're all will go on exactly the same. You're going to take one of your strings and you are going to take one of the ends of the string and feed one end through each hole till it looks like this. Then you're going to gather your 2 ends together and kind of hold them together, and you're going to pull through the string until you have a loop that looks like this. It basically looks like there's 2 strings coming out of each side. Then you're going to take your string and you're going to hang it around the top of the bottle and take the 2 ends and pull it tight. I like to lay the bottle down flat on the front and then just tie a little shoelace bow. You're going to have plenty of string left over, but basically as long as you can tie it just like a shoelace, that's all you have to do, and that way if you mess up you can just pull that out and redo it until you have it where it's going. And then each bottle will have, or each set will have a little tag, and the bottle can sit on that coaster and be a part of your decor. Now the other fun thing about this bottle is that it is a nice Manta stainless steel bottle. I think it holds about 9 ounces, so perfect for some hot chocolate or something like that. And you can use it for yourself or the kiddos when you're not using it for decor with your set. Our next interchangeable base is the interchangeable square sign. It's basically a frame and a base piece. All you're going to need to paint it is your sponge, and I'm going to use a staining method because it's plywood. I'm using some antique wax brown by Waverly, but you could use any color paint to do this effect. All you need is your sponge and a wet paper towel or a wet rag, and it doesn't have to be super wet, and then just wet enough to wipe some paint off. And then you're going to be using your little pin pen tool to scrape out anything that gets in those little scored lines there. But basically I'm just taking full strength of the antique wax, dabbing it on with my foam wedge. Then I'm taking a wet paper or a wet rag and I'm just wiping off with the grain all the excess to give it a stained look. Now this would look really cool with red paint, then it would look red stained. It would look really pretty with black. It would look good with any color really that you're matching the kit. Maybe you're doing it all in blues and it would look nice like that. But since it's plywood, it takes the stain look really well and you get that grain look of your wood. Now I am just taking that precision pin pen and dragging it in those scored lines and then wiping it off in between to keep it clean and sharp. Finally, you want to get your little clamps that came in your bonus bag, and you're going to get your glue. If you notice, I do use a little bit of a different glue since I do so many projects, but your glue is going to work just fine. You can do long little streams or little dots of glue all along the frame. You don't have to overdo it. It will stick really well to this backer, which is just unfinished MDF. And then you're just going to get it on there as square as possible. You don't want it to be hanging over any side. And that little hole is so you can pop your frame inserts out easily. So that is what that looks like all together. And then I've just got it clamped together, and I'm going to let the glue dry, and I might do the other 2 corners after that with the clamps. Once the glue has set for a couple of minutes, you can take your clamps off, and then this is what it looks like with one of the inserts in it. We'll take the and then it's got the little stand as well, So we'll just put one of those little in there, and you'll see it rests. It doesn't need a magnet or anything, and it just leans back with the frame itself in the stand. Our next project is the wood bead garland for our winter box. And this is a fun garland. You're going to have little snowman beads on one end and some pattern beads throughout the garland and some special ones at the other end. Your garland is all wrapped up in a plastic bag that's going to look like this in your kit. So you're going to want to take that out and then group and sort all your beads. I will show you in a picture kind of how I group mine so you'll have an idea of what to do. So first of all, in that little bag at the top, there is the snowman. Then you've got the two tassels, and then there's a red stripe bead, a plain white bead, a red and white bead, and a checked bead, large white beads, and a plain red bead. Those, and then those three on the side that don't match anything else, are your anchor beads. You're going to have some string. You're going to want to unwind and untangle the little twist tie that's around it. We're going to use that as our needle by folding it in half, and I'll show you how that works in a little bit. You set that aside for now, and you're going to want to unravel your string. So it's wound up, so just get it so you have it doubled up so the two ends are together, and then there's a loop at the other end. The first thing we are going to do is going to take that loop, and we are going to take our other white tassel, and you are going to feed that loop through the loop on the tassel. And then we are going to spread the loop of the string apart and pull all the string through that loop. So basically the two loops are going to be attached together, and there's no way that they should come apart or a knot should come loose because they are attached together and looped together, and you can see that there. All right, so then we are going to string on our snowman. So you are going to want to pick up your little twist tie, bread tie, and that's what you're going to use as your needle, and you are going to unpack the little baggie that has the snowman contents. There's going to be a plain white bead, one bead that has got three little dots that are buttons on it, one bead with a face, and then a black disc and a black bead. You're going to want to take the plain bead and put that all the way down through. The next bead you're going to want to take is the one with the three dots. And then the final bead, or the final white bead that you're going to want to do, is the one with the face, and you'll want it to put it so the face will be facing up on top, just like that. If you get it backwards, just pull it off and redo it. Then you're going to take the little black disc bead and take that all the way down, and that's going to be the brim of your hat. Then you're going to take the small black bead and put that on last. And sometimes you got to really pull to get that through. Okay, now it is your snowman portion of your garland is complete. If he's a little crooked, I'm going to show you how I glue a couple beads together to kind of keep him in place at the end. Now we're going to do our beads in a certain order, but before I do that, I am going to just try to make sure that everything is going to fit through with my needle, my wire bread tie needle, and it's a little stiff. So I am going to take that out, flatten it out, and I'm just going to take a scissors. There is a wire in the middle of that twist tie. I am just going to take a scissors and cut right up along that wire and take off some of that excess width of that bread tie or twist tie. And that is going to make it go easier through all of our beads. So I have decided on my order of beads, and you'll see how I do it when I string them on. There's 6 beads and there's 5 of each. So you're going to repeat this 5 times. First I'm doing the black and white striped. Then I'm taking one of the plain white ones and I'm feeding that through and putting that on. Next I'm going to do a red and white striped. After that I am going to do one of the red and black check beads. Then I've got a larger white bead or another white bead, pulling that through, and then finally ending up with a red bead. Now I am just going to repeat this process until all those beads are gone, and then all I have left are the 3 anchor beads on the left. So this is what it looks like after one course. Then I'm going to repeat this again, and then I will have 2 courses of beads done. Then I'm going to repeat it again, and I will have 3. And then I will have the 4th course on. And then finally I will have the 5th course on. And after the 5th course, I will be doing the 3 anchor beads. So you'll see next that is on, and all I've got left are the 3 anchor beads. There's a red and white checked, a red and white striped, and a white bead. Putting the striped one on first, then the white bead, excuse me, and then the checked. So now all our beads are on, and we just need to feed our string through the red tassel, and then we're going to cinch it all up so there's no excess. So I cut off a little extra string just to shorten it down a little bit. I still had plenty left, and I loop it through the red tassel, and then I'm taking my little needle and I am feeding it back up through each of these beads, the first 4 or 5 beads here, and pulling it through and then all the way down in the tassel. And eventually, as we keep doing this, that red loop is going to be less and less visible until it's all tight. So there I'm going through the white bead. Next I'm going to go through the striped anchor bead, and I'm going to keep repeating this until I don't have any more slack. All right, so that looks good there. I'm going to go through that big white bead because it's going to be easy to hide the knot in there. And actually I'm going up one more. There we go. Now I have no slack. So I am going to go ahead and one more time cut off excess and just leave me enough so I can tie a good knot. So I'm just going to separate my 2 strings, and I'm just going to tie 1 square knot 1 time and pull it tight. Then I am going to flip over my beads so I can tie a square knot on the other side. So I'm going to do 2 here. I'm going to tie it once, and I'm just anchoring this around that middle string so it's good and sturdy, and twice. Then I'm going to go in as close as I can with my scissors and snip off the excess. You just need to leave a little bit, and then you just kind of work it through, and you can bury that knot between a couple of beads. Then finally, for my snowman, he's just a little floppy. I want the head and the little buttons to line up. So I'm just going to take a little drop of glue and put a couple drops of glue between those 2 beads, and then hold them tight together for a few seconds, and then they're going to hold up, and then he is not going to be so floppy. It doesn't matter what direction this big white bead at the bottom is or what direction the hat is on him. They're always the same, but I like the head and the buttons to line up. It's just going to keep him together a little bit better. That part's optional. If you don't want to glue it, you don't have to. But after that is dry, then your garland is done. So there is your snowman wood bead garland that is going to match all the projects in this kit. It's time to do the final interchangeable base piece for this kit, which is this little house. It has a shelf in front where your little decor pieces are going to sit. The banner goes in the very front, and there's that little circle on the top for these circle inserts. It consists of the shelf base, the little fence picket fronts and sides, the circle holder. You're going to get that little metal disc out of that pack that's in your kit, and then we've got the little peaked roof. So this goes together pretty easy, but before we put it together, I like to paint everything first. It just gives it a neater look. So for the fence base, I'm just doing the top of it in that same staining technique with the antique wax. You can just paint it as well. It would look really cute as a white picket fence if you wanted, but I do both the front and the back of all the fence pieces. Reason being is you can kind of see it when it's displayed, so I like the front and back of both of those pieces, or all three of those little fence pieces, to be painted or stained. And this staining method works best. You tend not to get a lot of excess paint where the glue needs to go, and so that's why I like that. For the circle and the roof, I am just going to speed this up pretty quick here, but I am using a marker and just coloring with a marker. It's pretty self-explanatory, so I didn't think I needed to really go in slow motion for it. But I'm just taking my black marker and edging around the circle, the front of the circle, and the front of the roof. If you wanted to add little splatters of white paint to make it look like the roof had snow on it, you could certainly do that, but that is what I'm doing for the roof and that little circle. And you can see on the house part, there's a little part where that circle's going to go, and even if you paint over it, it's going to be visible. So I'm painting with white Waverly chalk paint from Walmart on the front of the house. I am using a 1-inch foam brush. You could still use your sponges if you wanted. I just get a little more coverage on these 1-inch foam brushes. That's all the bigger size you need for this kit anyway, because this is the largest piece that you'll be doing. I'm trying not to get paint on the sides. If I do get paint on the sides, I've got a technique I'm going to show you that I do to clean it up and get a neater look. I do 2 coats. I'm not going to show doing the second coat because it's just repetitive. After I am done painting, I go ahead and I take my little pin pen detail tool and I go in and kind of scrape in between where those slats are, so I don't have a lot of goop of paint in there, and where the gluing is going to happen as well. You can do it with a toothpick too, so that they fit together, so you don't have paint plugging up the holes where the glue is going to go. And this next step is optional. I like to do just a tad bit of distressing along the outside edges and along those cut-in slats per se that would be in the siding. That's kind of where I would think dirt would gather. And if I go a little too heavy-handed on the distressing, I just go in with a paper towel or a dry rag and kind of just really rub it in. If I go super more, I can always paint over it and redo. But that's the look that I was going for. If you don't like that look, that's fine. So now we are going to start to assemble things on the house. The first thing we're going to do, you can barely see it, but that little circle is there where you're going to line this one up for. So you get precision placement and it looks nice and centered. Now I'm showing you, I've got different kind of glue, but if your super glue is getting the dots too big, you can take a toothpick, put the glue on the toothpick, and then dot it around. Now my glue has a I cannot say that word today, a precision tip for applying, and it's nice and fine, so I can get small tiny dots. But if you're not doing that, that toothpick method is an alternative for you to use throughout this kit. I just brought it close to my eyes so I can see that I'm right on that circle. You'll see me doing that sometimes in the video. I don't want to get my head in there, so I would rather just bring it up close. And then I'm just using a toothpick or a Q-tip on the inside and outside of that ring for any overspray or overgluing that would happen. The little disc, there's another little circle right in the middle for that. Just put a couple drops right in that circle, put your disc on, and if it isn't perfectly centered, it's no big deal because the magnets just adhere to it anyway. Next up, I like to do the roof. I just do the thin bead of glue or just a few drops on the roof, and then I just kind of get it on the table and line it up. You have a few seconds before that glue dries. And then once you have it set where you want it, you can do that little clamp method with your clamps to hold it in place. And after a few minutes, everything's all set up. And here's that little trick if you have overpainting. I just take a black marker or a brown marker, or you could even just use a Sharpie, and I just go right over on the edges with that. Trying not to get any on the front, but just cleaning it up that way, and you just have a nice, more finished look. You can use that method throughout on any piece on your kit. So now this is the method to glue everything together. So first we're going to do the little end pieces on the base. So you take your fence picket ends, and they are going to go on each end, and I'm putting the glue in the little notches. There's a notch that pops out, and I'm doing glue on either side of that notch that pops out, basically on the indents. So you'll see, and I'll be turning it later so you can see, but there's an indent there and a little indent there, and then a notch that pops out in the middle. Then I'm taking my fence piece and I'm doing glue on either side of that middle hole, and then I'm just holding it tight. And everything just kind of snaps together. Now we've got the fence front that we're going to do. And that is going to go like that. And you just want to make sure all your pickets are facing up and the flat part is on the bottom. So there you can see in the little notches there where I am doing the glue on those little indents. And then I know where the fence goes, so I'm doing some glue on the back of the fence as well. And I'm also doing it on the notches on the side because it's all going to fit together. So there I'm doing the side, a little bit on the back, and on the other side. Now that's all going to snap together. If you have any issues, if you have a little rubber mallet, or just give it a little gentle pressure, it should snap all together. If it's a little gooped up with paint, just clean those parts out. But that's what that looks like, and it's nice. It's a nice, snug, sturdy fit. I'm going to take a Q-tip and clean up any excess glue or overgluing that I've got going on. Then finally we're going to glue this to the house. It's easier to get everything together and then put it on the house last. So there again, I'm just doing glue in those small little notches that you see. And I'll also do a little bit of glue back where the base is going to meet the house, in between all those little areas. So we'll get some nice adhesion and it will be a sturdy piece. So I'm going to snap that in. There you go. And then I'm again just cleaning that all up. And once all the glue is cleaned up, this piece is complete and ready for display. And this is where you're going to hang your fence. Of course, the little circle inserts and your pieces of decor are going to go in. And now we have all our base pieces complete and we are ready to proceed with the kit. Let's get started on our first collection, which is the Hot Cocoa collection. You're going to find all your unfinished projects labeled for that collection and wrapped up in your box as shown here. It's going to be the square mug sign, the 3 little pieces of decor that go on the shelf, along with your banner and circle, bottle tag, and base, and the garland ties everything together. The first project in the Hot Cocoa set is going to be the Snowflake Circle. This is an easy, quick project to get started with on this collection. It is just a little circle painted red with a white snowflake and then a magnet stuck on the back. I have taken the liberty of pre-painting or pre-finishing that snowflake in white for you, so if you didn't have a white marker, you're able to have a nice white snowflake. If you want a different color, just flip it over and paint the back side a different color. But this is what it looks like when it's done. And so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take a little piece of tape and make a loop and stick it to my plate, and it holds down that circle so I can easily go over it with my marker, again greatly sped up. If you don't have a red marker, you can of course use the sponges or Q-tips provided to paint that little circle a different color. Next, after that is dried, I'm going to go on the back of my snowflake and just do a couple small dots of glue. Again, if you need teeny dots, just use your toothpick. And I am pressing that to get it good and adhered. removing it from the tape, and then I am going to take that little magnet which has a white side. You peel off that white paper and you've got a sticky back, and just put that in the middle of the circle. If it's a little off center, it's no big deal. It's still going to rest in there just fine. Then your circle is done, and you can put your snowflake circle in the house and it's going to attach perfectly. The next thing we are going to do for our hot cocoa bar collection is do the banner. And it says hot cocoa bar right on it. It's going to have this cute little base with this wavy line so you know where to paint your chocolate drops. And then the hot cocoa and bar are pre-adhesive, so they have an adhesive backing. So you just peel the little backing right off it. Now, if you don't have markers for the words, just go ahead and use your Q-tips. Put a little paint on the end of them and go right over the top. That's the easiest way. But markers are the best solution for your little words and the detail in your kit. So what I did is I went ahead and used my hazelnut chalk paint from Waverly, and I went over the whole banner. I did 2 coats, and then I went back with my pin pen detail tool and scraped out any excess paint, so I still have those nice defined marks for the drips, so I know where to go in with my marker. And then I did the words in silver for hot, and I used red for the cocoa bar. But I'm going to show you where I go in with my bigger marker, and I'm kind of going inside those drips. If I need to get a little closer, I have a set of fine point markers. I would go in maybe and do along the line with those first, as you can see that I'm doing here, to kind of get those teeny little parts. It's just a little bit easier. But if you get a little over paint, or get a little bit off that drip mark, what you can do is just take a tiny little bit of your hazelnut paint on a Q-tip or your sponge and just go right in, or even a toothpick. There, I have it right on a toothpick, and go in right up next to that line. Again, you can use your pin pen to get anything out that might excess into the line, and you can kind of blend it out with the flat end tip of a Q-tip. So just know that if you mess up, you can always just paint over and try again, and once it dries, there won't even be a mark there. So I have that all done. I'm not going to show you every step when I paint because it's very repetitive, but I'm making my little tape loops for each word, and I'm going to use my silver metallic marker on the word hot, and then for cocoa bar I am going to use my red marker. Now again, these are the colors I'm choosing. You do whatever you want. This would look really cute in pastels or all natural, however you want to do it. I tend to go more traditional with my color choices, just a personal preference. And if you want to mimic mine, that's fine, but I love seeing the variation that you guys come up with too. So I have those all done. So now basically I just want to kind of line up my words and see where I want to place them. And remember, these words all have an adhesive backing, so they are very easy to attach and you don't get a lot of excess glue, which is nice. And I tend to do that on all the words in this kit. So I'm going to do the word hot and just kind of center it up on that bump. And then I'm kind of seeing where I want the cocoa bar on there, and I will remove the adhesive backing from each one of those and get those pressed and adhered as well. If you mess up and it's a little crooked, it really doesn't matter. This is a scripty font, which is a bit on the crooked side anyway, so it does not have to be perfect. Just kind of get the general idea for placement. And there we go. And with that, your banner is complete and ready to hang on your house with the little hooks that we have provided. Let's start decorating the mini marshmallow jar that will go inside that little shelf. Here's what it looks like up close. You get the base. These are pre-painted white, your marshmallows. The words are adhesive, and then a little heart to put on the outside. It's quite easy to finish. What I did was I painted my jar, this dark green, with this Waverly Fern from Walmart. It's chalk paint, and I just used my sponge and painted the whole jar that green. You can do yours whatever color. I used a red marker for the words and a white marker for the heart. Make it whatever color you want. The marshmallows and topper are pre-painted white just because it's kind of tiny and detailed and it's one less thing for you to do. So I'm just going to show you how I finish up with my marker on the two words. Again, just taping them down to my plate with that little painter's tape loop that I make. And that's what those look like, all done. Then it's just time to assemble everything. And it's quite easy to put together. First, I'm going to do just a little bit of glue on the back of this topper. So there, I'm going to just do my tiny little bits. And it just lines up perfectly. The little marshmallows have a little bump out on there, and you just line those up and press to adhere. You can use your clamps if you want to just kind of hold it in place as you work on the other things. The marsh and the mellow are adhesive back. So you're just going to peel that backing off and press that on. It just centers right there perfectly on the jar itself. And you're going to repeat that with the other word. And then at the very end, you're going to take your little heart, put a dab of glue on the back of it, and that is going to finish up your jar design. I painted my heart white. Again, you could do it whatever color you want. It would look really cute silver. Keep it red, however you want to paint your pieces. That's the beauty of this kit. So this is done now, and this is what the finished product looked like. And this is what it looks like when you insert it inside your little house. Let's start making the gingerbread man for the hot cocoa decor. It consists of two pieces. You're going to get the pre-painted white piece, that's the outline, and then you have the base. This is super easy to paint. I just did that little staining method on the gingerbread man, and if you wanted, you could color in the little parts that are going to be at the ends of his hands and feet. I just left mine all one color. Then to put it together, I just went on the back of the white overlay piece and did some teeny tiny drops of glue. Again, you can do that toothpick method on yours if you want. You just need little pieces of glue, and then you are going to line up your two pieces. This is how I like to do it. I like to put one piece in one hand, one in the other, and kind of press the edges around before I press down to adhere it. And then I get my clamps and clamp it together and let the glue dry and set, and then that piece is ready to be displayed with the rest of the hot cocoa collection. The next little decor piece we're doing for this set is the hot cocoa gnome. He is a little bit more detailed than our other pieces. Comes with a base, your adhesive words warm up, a pre-painted snowflake, the hat overlay, and the little hands. So what I did for the base was I painted the whole thing white, and then I used my scoring tool to score out all the little lines in like the mug and the candy cane, etc. And I did do 2 coats, and that warm up does not need to be quite so scraped out or anything. I'm just showing you what it looks like after I do two coats. And then I'm going to use my markers to do my details. And again, I'm using that little pin pen to get this paint out of the scored marks where we want them to show. So I am going to do green on the top, and then red on the bottom, and then on the hat I'm doing red and a flesh color for the nose. I'm doing that hazelnut brown for the nose, or for the little mitts or his hands, but you could do them whatever color you want. I'm just telling you the colors that I did. And the first thing we're going to do is on the little antlers. I'm just taking my brown marker and I am coloring in the antlers. If you go in a little bit on the hat, it's not a big deal because the hat is going to cover any little errors that you make. Next, I am going to take another marker and is the words warm and up. On the original one I had done brown, but I decided I wanted it a little lighter, so I am doing those in my silver metallic marker, which I really like for the holidays. It just adds that little bit of brightness and sparkle. I do 2 coats. The silver's kind of light. And then I am coloring in the hat with my green marker. And what I'm doing here is I'm going for a more muted look on it. I am coloring it in dark, and then I'm going to go back after I color it in and kind of dab it up and lighten it up a little bit. But I just do the whole thing with that marker, and then I just kind of scuff it up, as you will, with my Q-tip, just to give it a more faded, almost an ombre look to it, and just shaded. And I'm just looking at what the hat looks like over it. And again, I did the hat with the red marker, and then I'm just doing a little bit of a light pink or peachish color, fleshy tone color on the nose. And at the end of the hat, I am going to take a white marker and do the little ball on it like I did on the mug to the right. Now I am doing the little candy cane, and there are little lines for the candy cane, so I'm just alternating. I'm doing one green, leaving one white, then doing a red, skipping, and another white one, doing red, and alternating it like that. You can do yours just red and white, green and white, whatever colors you want, but that's how I chose to do mine. Lastly, we're going to color in the bottom part of the mug. I'm doing that in red. You could definitely use paint here. I did take a piece of painter's tape and just do it straight across that line because it is a straight line. And when you peel it off, you get a nice clean look. Again, I can take my pin pen and dig out any excess paint that I have. But we're going to start putting him together. So you just want to do a little bit of glue on the thicker parts of that little hat for him, and then get it all lined up. I'm just doing it off camera for a second. And then once it's all lined up, you just bring it on in and clamp it up with your clamps to hold it in place. And touch up any little spots that need to be touched up. And we've got his little hands, and all you need to do for those is one tiny drop of glue. And there is a little scored part for the hands, so you can see which one goes where. And again, you can just take your clamps and do those to hold those in place. And then the final parts of the cup are the adhesive letters in the snowflake. I like to do the adhesive letters first. Again, they have a small little part that is etched out for them, so it's easy to see where to put them even after you've painted it. The idea of that is just as a guide, so you have those score lines can be filled in. And then we've got your white snowflake. Again, that is pre-painted for you. If you want to do the other side of it and paint it a different color, go ahead. But once that's on there, I'm clamping that, and then your little gnome in a mug is done, and he is ready to be displayed with the rest of your hot cocoa decor. Here is our square sign insert. This fits perfectly into the little frame that we stained earlier in our base pieces. You've got the base of the mug, a topper, a couple of snowflakes, and the little marshmallows that are pre-painted white along with the snowflakes, and then the sign backer. And I did the backer in white, and I did a coat of white over the whole mug. And then, of course, took my pen and scored out all those lines that needed to be scored out. And that's what it looks like after 2 coats of white, and I scored out that line on the bottom and then the lines on the handle. And these are the colors I'm using. I did the hazelnut brown for that little whipped topping. I wanted it to look like a mug of hot cocoa, so I did that brown since the marshmallows are white that go on top of it. And then I colored in the little parts and did details with my white marker around everything after it was all painted, and I'll show you that in the end. But the first thing I'm going to do is take a red marker, and I am just going to do red over that candy cane. And if you go in a little bit onto the mug part, that's fine because that topper is going to cover it. Then I'm doing the same thing that I did with our little mug gnome. I am coloring in the little stripes on the mug, alternating red, white, green, white, and on. And you'll see my head poke in from time to time because I'm just getting in there super close to make sure that I have a good, precise application of my colors. And I've got this sped up so you can see how I'm doing every other one between the red, white, green, white, and so on for the handle. And the reason I do the white color first on everything is it makes your markers go on a lot easier and the color really pops. You don't have to do that, but I just find I get a better result. And if you don't want to do white, if you want a more muted look, do a cream or an ivory first. That's fine too. So the next thing I'm going to do is get to coloring the rest of my mug. Now I do the base of the mug in a green. So I just take my dark green marker and do that. And there's one snowflake that I want to have silver instead of white. It's the one that's going in the upper left hand corner. So I do silver marker on that snowflake. I just turned it over and did it on the other side. The white that I pre-paint these with doesn't take painting very well. It's kind of a melamine white. So I don't paint on that white side. I just flip stuff over. So what I'm doing here is I am taking my white fine tip marker and I am going through and I'm just doing little detail parts. And you can see I've already got that mug colored up, the green. And here I'm going to do some little detailed marks on the mug. Just kind of along the outline, following it with the curve. It just gives it that little extra oomph, I think, that gives it holiday decor. And you can see how everything kind of looks like a mess till you start putting it together, and then it looks great. That's kind of what I like about this piece. It starts out looking not great, how the green is colored in and everything, but once you get all the pieces together, it looks really great. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking those pre-painted marshmallows, gluing them on top of the little whipped piece, and then I'm doing glue on the back of that whipped piece and just lining that up perfectly with that top part of the mug. And it lines up really nice, and you can put your clamps on that if you want. Just one was really all you need. Then I'm going to get my other snowflake, the big one of the two, and put that onto the front of the mug. So I'm just going on the back end of it, doing my tiny drops of glue. As you can see, this gets repetitive through the whole thing, but by the time you've made a few of these decor pieces, it goes quite quickly. So that I'm just using a clamp to hold that down. Now if you want, again, this is optional, since it's white on white at the bottom, I'm just doing a little bit of shading with that brown that I have on my sponge. I'm not even re-dipping it in, and I'm doing a bit around the handle just to give it that little bit of a shadow effect to give it more dimension on that white background. Now you could do your background a different color, maybe more of an off-white, again, cream or ivory will work better for you. I just chose to do white because it's what I had out and on a brush already. So now I'm doing a little bit of glue on the back of the mug, pressing that down, doing glue on the back of my snowflake and pressing that down. And then the insert is done once the glue is dried, and it is ready to go into the frame. And remember, this comes with a stand as well, so it is ready for your display. The final project for this set is the hot cocoa bottle tag. That is the tag in the string that I showed you how to tie back in the base piece for the bottle. So if you need a refresher on how to do that, just go back to that section that's bookmarked and tie it, and then your bottle is ready to display with the rest of your hot cocoa set. Our next collection in the set is the North Pole Baking Co. collection. It consists of everything you see here. We've got your bottle tag. We have the little sign insert that says Baking Spirits Bright. We have the Mr. and Mrs. Claus, a sheet of cookies, your banner, the circle, and of course the garland that ties everything together. We are going to start this off with the circle first and go from there. The next project is the Peppermint Circle insert for the North Pole Baking Co. set. So it consists of a base and an overlay and your magnet. And it all goes together like that. So what we're going to do first is take the base, and I'm painting that white all over, and I did use the little scoring tool that comes with your kit to score out those lines, so it's going to be easier to paint that stripe. I'm going to paint that inner stripe with a green marker. So here you're going to see me making my little loop with my tape to secure it down and going in, and I'm coloring inside those little lines with my green marker. Again, if I make any mistakes, I can just go over it with paint and clean up with my tools, and it should be done. But basically I just do one little arm of that etched in design and color it in with green, turn it and finish it up. Once that is all painted in, then I did use a marker, and it was red, and I did the overlay in red with that marker. Then all you need to do is glue everything together. So I'm going to do the self-adhesive magnet on the back, and then I'm going to take the red overlay piece, apply some glue on the back of that, and you just need a little tiny drop on each one of those little points. And I'm going to line it up so that the green shows between the red and the white, if you can see how that looks. So it kind of has a spiral look to it, and I'll just secure it with a clamp, and then once it's dry, you can take your Peppermint Circle insert and put that on the house just like that. Our next project is the Gingerbread Baking Co. banner that will hang on the front of the house, and this is what it looks like all finished up. The kit for this includes the base, the word gingerbread, which is adhesive, and the little rolling pin that goes in the front. The base has got scored lines, so you're going to use your pin pen precision tool to score those out after you paint them, so they'll have that nice crisp look. The other scored lines on there are just for placement, so if those get covered up by the paint, that is fine. They'll still be faintly visible. And like I said, the gingerbread word is adhesive, and the Baking Co. is a little rolling pin where you're going to paint the ends, and I just left the middle undone. So the first thing I did was I did 2 coats of white on the base and scored out in between, and this is what it looks like all painted up. Then I did a red marker on the gingerbread and red marker on the ends of the rolling pin. And in order to do the stuff with the marker, again, I just made my little paper loops or tape loops to adhere it, and then it's easier to paint with the marker like that. And I'm using red, and again, just use whatever colors you like. If you want to paint the middle of the part that says Baking Co., that's fine. I wanted it to have that natural wood look to it, so that's why I just did the ends. So here I'm just taking my red marker, and this has got, I'm taking a pair of tweezers, it's got a bullet tip on it too. I wanted the finer tip on there for doing those handles to get me a little more of a precise application. This set has that switchable nibs on it. Not all marker sets do, but this one from Arteza that I've got linked in the description does have that. And then there's what gingerbread looks like all painted up. And then when you're going to put the lid back on, you just switch the marker back out. So now I am doing just a little bit of distressing on the wood part in the middle, just to give it that more scuffed up look. And now it's time to put everything together. So again, you've got your slightly visible scored lines after you paint them. I like to do the adhesive part first, the gingerbread, and I'm going to line that up just within that scored line, and I'm just bringing it in so I get a precise positioning on it, and I'm going to press that down to get that taped adhesive word to adhere better. Then I'm going to do just a small tip of glue on either ends of that rolling pin. You can see there I'm using my precision tip. I'm not worrying about getting any glue in the middle of those words. I don't want those to any glue to come out between those letters. And I'm just lining it up with those scored lines that are right on the bottom middle of that sign. And then that is adhered and ready to go. I'm going to use my clamps to secure that while it dries. Then I've got my two hooks. I'm going to insert those in, and those hooks go in just through that back slot there. So they hang on like that with the fence, and it's ready to display with the rest of your set. Our next project is one that's going to go in the actual shelf of the little house. It is the cookie sheet with the 3 gingerbread men. It consists of a base with an etched out part, so you know where to put each little gingerbread man, 3 gingerbread men, and then an overlay frame that makes it look like a little tray. And this one is really easy to paint and put together. I did 2 coats of silver on the base, and we're going to do some more to that later. I used my Q-tip and a little bit of the hazelnut paint for the gingerbread man, and then I'm doing the overlay in the silver as well, 2 coats, and then I'm going to do a bit of a distressing technique on the base. I want it to look more like a cookie sheet that's dirty or has a little patina to it, so I'm just kind of rubbing it a little bit first of all, just to get some of the sheen off of the silver, and kind of going over it again, getting different layers and dimensions of the silver on it. Then I'm going to take like a copper marker or a bronzy metallic marker and make little dots all around, and then blend that in, and then it just gives it more the appearance of kind of a dirty cookie sheet, if that makes any sense. This part, of course, is totally optional. It's just something I chose to do. So then once we've got everything painted, this one is super easy to put together. I just do a little drop of glue on the back of each little gingerbread man, and that's all you need. And then I'm just looking at that placement, the little etched line that's just slightly visible for you to put each gingerbread on. You can put just a little bit of glue in the outline there as well if you'd rather. And then we're going to get them all on there, and then we will just do small tiny dots of glue around the edge of the overlay with the handles and line that up and put on our clamps to hold it. And I do have a little bit of overpaint, so I am again just going to do that little trick I showed you earlier with the black marker and get rid of that and give it a nice clean look. And then that piece is done and ready for you to display along with the other pieces in the house shelf. Also, If you would like, you can also insert it into one of those stands, just like our other pieces, and display it outside of the shelf if that's something you prefer. The next project is Mrs. Claus, because it wouldn't be a baking company without Mrs. Claus to make her cookies. So that consists of her base, a little hair overlay, some glasses, a little piece of holly, and then she's holding a little gingerbread man between her little hands. And the small pieces, of course, we are going to do with markers. The gingerbread, I did a light brown. The holly, I did a combo of red and green. The glasses I did in red, and I did a flesh color on her mitts or her hands. And I do a little bit of detailing on each of these pieces with my white marker. And if the marker gets clogged, you just pump it on this brand of markers, and then you get the paint flowing again in it. And you can do little details around, like the cookie, her hands. It shows up really good here when I do it on the red holly berries, just like that. I do a little bit of that all over on these small pieces just to give it a little added character and dimension. And once those are done, I'll set those aside and we'll start working on Mrs. Claus. I painted her hair and her body entirely white. I did 2 coats on that, and then I went through with my precision pin pen on all those scored lines, like her eyelashes and her collar and her sleeves. And then we are going to do a little bit of peach colored or pink colored flesh tone. You can put the hair on there to see how far you need to go with the peach, just so you get it everywhere you need it. And then you put it on there, and then what I like to do is go over it with either a sponge or a Q-tip to just lighten it up a bit. I want just a very faint color on there. Of course, you can do whatever hue you want. This is just the look I'm going with for my Mrs. Claus. So there, it's a little darker on the bottom. I'm just dabbing that off, and then you'll see where it kind of just blends it all in, just kind of like you're blending in makeup to get a nice even tone. And then when you put the top part of the hair over, you get that dimension. Now I'm doing just a little bit something different on her dress. I decided that I wanted to do some stripes on her dress, and I'm just using a lighter green and a darker green, and I'm doing alternating stripes and kind of blending them in together where they meet. It's just something a little different. You could do it all whatever color you want, or just one color. And then there's a distinct line there where the sleeve is of the dress. I'm leaving those white. And I'm just continuing on up. And then when I get closer to her collar, I'm going to use a thinner type of a marker, just so it's easier to get around in that little skinny spot. You'll see that in just a minute. The nice thing about the thin and thick set of markers from Arteza is they all have the same colors, so you can do that easily, switching out between the broader tip and the finer tip. But that is what her dress looks like. Then you could add, if you wanted, some dots on there too. I'm just doing a little cleanup on her sleeve with some white paint, and I'm doing some accents with my white paint marker on her. And just some dots within those stripes. Very subtle. And that's, again, just some optional detail that you can do. Finally, it's time to put everything together. So the first thing I'm going to do is that hair overlay, since it's kind of a big piece and it's easy to start with. And I'm just doing a little bit of glue on the back of that hair overlay and going to line that up with that bun in the sides so you get that dimension with her hair. You can see where she's starting to take shape. A lot of these things look a little messy till you start putting them together, and then they look really good. There is a little outline so you can easily see the placement for her glasses, and it just lines up from side to side, and you just want to make sure you cover up any of that outline. Then for her little hands and her gingerbread man, what I like to do is figure out where I want it to go, and then I'm going to take one of my clamps and just clamp down one of those hands, take off the gingerbread man and the other hand, and start gluing them together like a puzzle. now that the gingerbread man is in place, then I can do one of her hands and then the other, and it's exactly where I wanted them. And then once the glue has set up and you remove your clamps, Mrs. Claus is ready to go into our little Christmas house and join the gingerbread man that we just did. But you don't want to forget about her little holly in her hair. So you want to put that on last, and then she's ready to go. I jumped the gun there. So this is what she looks like finished. And then next we will show her in the house along with the cookie sheet that we completed in the previous project. Let's make Santa Claus. He is the perfect companion to Mrs. Claus, of course. This is what he looks like done. And he consists of a base, little shoes, a little overlay with his beard and coat, a mustache, his hat brim, eyebrows, and he holds a little package between his two little hands. So all these base pieces I painted white and then scored out the lines. I did 2 coats on each, and that just makes it again easier to paint on the accent for his face and then the red parts for his coat and the rest of his outfit. And the other parts you can just leave white, which works out great. And the white paint does take the markers quite well. So for his feet, I just went ahead and painted on those with a black marker. I changed it to a finer tip when I did the little top part of his boots, which is on the base, just to make it easier to color in and get that precise application again. And then you just switch that over back to the other tip to get the lid on. And then I'm taking my white marker and doing a little detail to give his shoes just that definition. You can see how that looks on the finished part. I'm also taking the white marker and doing a little stripe on the mittens, on the ends of the mittens, and then coloring the rest of the mittens in with a red marker. After that's done, then we do need to color in his little present, and you can see that down there. It's got a bow and it gets held between his hands. And we also need to color in right below the beard. There's a score mark, and then there's also that little score mark right at the base of his little coat. You want to color in between there red, and that gives that nice definition. And if you need to get in there with some thinner markers right up close to the edge, you can. And if you need to clean up with your paint and a toothpick or a Q-tip, you can do that as well. You can see there I had a little overage, and I'm just going back over that. So now we're going to color in on the base. You'll see right there that little strip, last little strip of it, I want to keep that white, and you can just line up your overlay to see. But that's all you need to do. Then on his face, I'm doing that in a peach, or I guess that light pink color, same as I did with Mrs. Claus. And if it goes over a little bit, it's not a huge deal because we're going to be coloring this top part red, leaving the pom-pom white. And you don't have to get right up to the line on that because you have the overlay of the brim with the eyebrows. But this is where he's starting to come together now. Last, we're going to, like I said before, do that little present. I'm doing the present itself with 2 coats of silver, and then I'm going to do the bow with some green. And on his beard part, I'm going to go over that nose portion with the tiniest bit of a pink marker, so that will give a more realistic appearance to him with the mustache and the pink nose. Here I'm just coloring in that bow with that fine tip green marker. And all his pieces are painted in, and we will start putting Santa together. So to put him together, I'm just laying out all the pieces, make sure I have everything and they are complete. The first thing I'm going to do is do his beard and coat overlay. So that's easy to line up on there. I'm just doing few drops of glue all over the back. And then I'm just doing that same method I've been doing where I kind of pinch them between my two hands and kind of get the placement all together before I push down for it to adhere. When I'm ready for it to adhere, I just take my clamps and go ahead and put those on either side. The next part I'm going to tackle is the little hat brim with the little eyebrows. And put that right on there, and that lines up perfectly on him, and clamp that down. Next we will do his little shoes. They are shoes, but it's just one piece. And I do that flush with the bottom. Now he is 2 layers thick, so you can use that thicker opening stand that's included in your kit for Santa to stand outside of the box if you want when he's all done. Last we've got his, or I should say next we have his nose and mustache, and then we want to start piecing together where we want his mitts and present to be. So I'm going to do that same trick that we did with Mrs. Claus, where I'm going to clamp down one of the mittens. I'm going to glue the present on, and then I will, once that's good and set, we will do each of the hands. And then, so I'm doing the other hand while that's clamped on there, and then I'm going to take that clamp off and do the other hand. And then Santa is going to be all done, and he is ready to join Mrs. Claus, the baking sheet, and then of course the banner and the circle in the tray. And this is what it looks like all done. And then it's going to be followed by all those items in the tray, and we are almost done with this set. The next project in this set is the Baking Spirits Bright Square Sign Insert. It just is going to go right into our square frame that we built earlier. And it's got the words Baking and Bright, which are adhesive, a little rolling pin that goes on the backer, and an overlay for the rolling pin that says Spirits, and then a frame overlay. So I did 2 coats of white on the backer. Did red marker on the rolling pin and the words, and for spirits you can just leave it the same natural if you want, or color it in a different color. It just looks better lighter for the word spirits to show up. So there I did the marker on everything, and then we just need to do a little bit of glue on the back of the word spirits. I'm going to press that down and hold that with some clamps. Once that is dry, we can go ahead and get our frame on. Just a little bit of glue in those solid parts, and then get the frame. And I like to just put it on the table as I go around and get everything lined up, and use my clamps to hold it down. Once that's done, then I'm going to do just a little bit of glue on the side where the outline for the rolling pin goes, and I'm going to get that pressed in good and tight using my clamps again. And then the baking and the bright again are adhesive back, so just remove that backing, line it up with its outlines, and then that sign is done, ready to be inserted in the frame and displayed with the rest of your baking company set. The final project for the North Pole Baking Co. set is the Milk for Santa tag that goes on the bottle. I show how to tie this on in the bottle base video. It is bookmarked down below, and the tag is already finished. All you have to do is add the string, and it goes around the bottle to complete your set. The next collection we will be working on is the Valentine collection, and it consists of everything that you see here, starting off with, of course, the bottle tag that we've already completed, the love insert sign, and over on the little house there is the love letter circle insert, the wooden banner, and your 3 little pieces of decor tied in with the garland. The first project in our Valentine set is the love letter circle insert. This is a super easy project. The little love letter with engraved heart is pre-done in that white melamine finish for you. So all you need to do is basically color the little backing circle with a red marker or red paint, or whatever color you want. It would look really cute with pink too, or a blue. So go ahead and get out your red marker and do that with the circle, and then once that paint is dry, you're going to glue the letter onto the circle and attach your magnet to the back with the self-adhesive backing, and then this little project is done in a flash and ready to display with the house. The next project in the Valentine kit is the love banner that will hang on the house. It consists of a plywood base with 4 letters that you color with markers on top, and the plywood base has got those shiplap lines. And what we're going to do here is, for the plywood base, I am going to leave it mostly natural, but just going around with a bit of my brown antique wax, or you could do paint or whatever. And I'm just doing that distress method that I've done on some previous ones. And I'm leaving the rest of it unfinished. Then I'm taking a dark pink marker and doing the LVE, which are adhesive, and I did the heart in a red marker. And now it's time to put everything together. So you're just going to peel the backer off each letter and get it adhered to the banner. It is outlined with a scoring mark for you to do easy placement. You will glue on the heart, and then the V and the E are adhesive as well, and you will get those attached. Once everything's attached, this banner is done. You will then feed your hooks through those little holes and display it on the front of the house with the rest of the Valentine Day decor that we will be making in the next few videos. The next in your kit is going to be the mini candy jar that has the word love and some candy hearts in it. And this is everything that comes with that particular part of the kit. It's got a backer that you'll paint one color and an overlay another, some adhesive letters, and then some little hearts that say you and us inscribed on them. I did the backer in this agave blue from Waverly at Walmart, and I used my pin pen to etch out that detail around the heart. I used markers on the little you and us, and then if I got any paint marker in there, I just dug it out with my pin pen tool, and I did white over the top of the overlay. And I did a pink pen on the word love, and I did purple on a couple of the letters as well. And here is how this goes together. First of all, I like to get the overlay on first, so I know where everything is going to get placed on the inside. And so I do a little bit of gluing on the back of that in some very teeny tiny drops, and I get out my little clamps to clamp that all together. Next, I do the letters, I believe, because they are adhesive and I want those to go down first, and I'll do my hearts underneath them. I do use a toothpick earlier to clean up any over gluing area as well. So the L, I'm just going to peel the backer off and adhere it, followed by the O, V, and E, and I'm doing them in a staggered manner. So placement is cattywampus or whatever, kind of like you've shaken the jar up and everything's all over the place. Then I'm going to do a just a bit of glue on the back of each heart and glue them on in kind of a random order all through there, so they look like they've been shaken up as well. Once you have everything glued, let it dry and set up for a few minutes. Then this piece is going to be ready to display with the other items in the Valentine house. This is the final look at the one that we just created, and then you'll see it in the house. Our next project is the So Sweet wrapped candy that we are going to put into the house with our Valentine decor. It consists of this base with all these edge lines for placement on there and some for detail. And the So Sweet letters are adhesive and attached, so they're just 2 words. I took my red paint and I did the whole base in red first, and then I'm going to color over it with some different colors of pink markers to give it some depth, and then do some accents with my white marker. So in the middle part of the sign, and it's hard to see, but I'm going over it with kind of a dark pink marker, and then I'm going to use a little bit of a lighter one on the top and bottom wrapped pieces to just give it some more dimension. You can kind of see how that looks in the end. And then I'm taking my white marker like I have in other projects. This is my fine tip white. And I'm doing just a bit of details around the edges to give it that extra little realistic and dimensional look. I did a light pink on each word. So I'm just going where it is outlined on the base for the word so, and then I'm taking the adhesive backing off the word sweet and doing the same thing. And then this particular piece is ready to display, and it also fits really good in those little stands I've included as well. And you can put it in the tray next to the candy jar that we just made. Now it's time to do the Valentine Gnome. This gnome comes with a backer. This is what he looks like all done, but it consists of a hat, a backer, 2 little hands, and a heart that he holds, and his little shoes, and another heart that goes on top of the heart. It's pretty easy to finish this piece. I have got all the pieces painted here, and we're going to add some detail and then put it together. For the shoes, I painted them in all red, scored out the line for the heel, and then I'm coloring the heel in the black marker, and I'm doing that on both shoes. For the hat, I did that with a red marker, and then for the body, I did that in a dark gray paint called Elephant, and then I'm taking another paint called Steel by Waverly that you can get at Walmart. And I'm taking an old bristle brush. It's got very dry bristles on it, kind of like a stencil brush. And I'm just doing a little bit of a beard on there. It doesn't look great when I do it, but once we get everything all put together, it has more of a beard appearance than just the plain painting. And then I've got my little detail tool to scrape out that scored line. You just go right up to that scored line with it. I'm taking a white marker and I'm doing some details on the hat and on the heels of the shoes and on his little hands. I did the hands with the black marker as well. And then for the hat, and I also did for the little pom-pom on the hat, I did that in white on the gray background as well. Then I'm gluing the hat onto the gnome. Again, just using that same method of using my fingers for placement and getting it all lined up, and then using my clamps. And then his nose, I did in that kind of that brown hazelnut color that we've been using on other things. I did that. And then each of his shoes go on. You just do a little bit on the heel and just line each shoe up for the little bump out for each one. And repeat the process on the other side. And then he is going to hold that heart, and I'm going to do that same method that we used on Mr. and Mrs. Claus, where I put the heart in the hands on him, figure out where I want it, and then I'm going to use one of the clips to anchor a hand and toss off the heart and the other hand, and then glue those on and use the clamps to hold the heart in place and start doing the hands. And they all just go right in there like a puzzle, so it's very easy to put them together. I hope you like the little clamps that we did include in the project. I find them very handy for working on these little pieces and parts, for holding things in place and getting that glue to set properly. And then last but not least, there's a little heart that I painted white, and that goes on top of that heart right there. And then your Valentine Gnome is done. This is what he looks like all finished, and then he is going to go in your house base with the other two items that we just completed. We're now ready to do the love square sign insert for our Valentine set. And this is what it looks like in the frame and all done. It's got a shiplap back and heart overlay and the words LOVE that are adhesive back that go on the top. I kind of like the simplicity of this sign. I did the backer in white with 2 coats and drug through the shiplap backing with my detail pen, and I did markers on the words love, and I did that elephant gray on the heart overlay. And that's what all the letters look like once I have colored them with the markers. So then it's just a matter of putting this set together. There is no etching for the words LOVE on the hearts. You can go ahead and just kind of eyeball how they go, just get them on nice and straight. Again, those letters have an adhesive backing, so they're very easy to apply. Once you have them all done, give them a good press down. Then you are going to glue the overlay onto the white shiplap back. And I just do a little dot on each heart and some dots around the outside. And then I'm going to take my clamps once I get this all lined up. Just kind of rotate it around. And then I'll clamp those corners and let this dry. And then this is done and ready to be inserted in your frame and displayed with the rest of your Valentine decor. The final project on our Valentine set is the Love Potion number 9 bottle tag. This goes on just like all the other bottle tags, and I explain that in the bottle base video. I will have that timestamp below. And this is what it looks like completed. In addition to the kit itself, we do offer an optional extra set that you can purchase, which is this nativity set. It's Mary, Joseph, baby Jesus, the star, the banner, and the square sign insert, and they look like this when you put them all into the little house. They fit in there quite nicely. It's an optional set. Not everybody wants a super religious set for Christmas, so I made it as an option for those that do want a nativity set. And if you're a box member, the link was given to you to purchase this set. The first project for the nativity set is going to be this star circle insert. So this is what it looks like all done, and you're going to get an extra magnet with this set. That's the backer, and that is the star. How I did this was I went ahead and I colored the whole star yellow, and I used a blue marker on the backer. So we're going to go on the yellow star, and I will show you how I did a little detail on the inside of that. I did the whole thing in yellow first because it's the lighter color and it's just easier to do that way. Then I'm taking a fine tip, I think it's like a copper colored or a bronze colored marker, and I'm doing part of the star in that. And there are itch marks in the star, so you will see that when you get it. It's just very hard to show that detail so close. Then I did the blue marker, kind of a dark, almost cobalty blue on the backer. Then I just need to put a little bit of glue on the back of the star and adhere it to the backer. And I'm going to put a magnet on the back. So that's what this looks like all done. And then you will put it on the house and it looks like the star for Bethlehem. The next nativity scene project is the Holy Night banner, and this is what it looks like completed. It comes with a star, a base, the words Holy Night that are adhesive on the back, and of course the 2 hooks. And it's got these scored lines so we can do different colors on the background, and it makes it just easier to do. So how I got started was I did that hazelnut color by Waverly on the background to give it that nice tan. I'm leaving the lower stripe that hazelnut color, and I did drag my pin pen tool, or if you don't have that, the toothpick, through there to get that nice scored line for that sand and for the star up top. And on the top portion I'm doing a dark, that same dark blue that we did on the circle. And then I am taking a brown marker and going in where I want to do brown, fine along the lines, and then filling it in with that broader tip. And that's what it's going to look like all done, because I do leave the bottom part that hazelnut. Then I'm using kind of a coppery or bronzy color to do on the Holy Night with a marker, and I just do a yellow marker on the star. And then it's time to put it all together. I'm just doing a small drop inside that scored line for the star and getting that on there and just pressing to adhere. And then the Holy Night is going to go on there. Again, that is adhesive, so I'm just taking a look at it and making sure that I have it placed where I want it. I pull that off and then I place the Holy and the Night on there, and then this project will be completed. And it does come with an additional set of hooks, just like the other banners in the regular kit did. And this will get hung on the front of the fence of the house. Your nativity scene wouldn't be complete without a Mary to go with it. So that's what we are going to make. And she comes with a base, a veil and face, hair overlay, and then her hands and arms, and it all goes together like a layered puzzle. And that's what she looks like when she is all done. I am doing her in the traditional kind of blue garb or blue garments that we see Mary in, and I use that agave blue on the base for her, and I use a sponge. And likewise, I did the same thing, agave blue on the veil and then white on the face, and then I use a blue marker between the two. And I did brown on the hair, and I did base of her hands and arms. I did in white, and then I went over it with blue for her arms. So I'm going to do a little detail. There is a little line at the bottom of her garment on the base, and I'm doing that in dark blue with my fine point marker. And then for her face, I'm taking that pink marker and I am doing kind of that flesh color tone and blending it in, kind of like makeup on her face to give it a more subtle look. And then the hair was going to cover up that seam. I'm also doing the same kind of flesh colored marker on her hands. The flesh colored marker I'm using is called Ballerina Pink, but you can use whatever tone you happen to have on hand. So the first thing we are going to do when we put her together is adhere the little hair piece onto the front of her face, and it goes right where the face and veil meet, so you don't see any seam in there, and it looks really nice when it's all done. Once that has been adhered in the glue set, then we're going to attach that veil and face onto the top of the base piece, just like that. Once that is done, then you're going to do the same thing with her arms and hands. They are all one piece, and that goes right on there as well. And it just goes right up flush with the base of her face. And this is what she looks like all done, and she is ready to go in the manger and wait for baby Jesus and Joseph, and those are what we will be doing next. It's time to make the baby Jesus to go in your nativity set. This consists of the base, the face for baby Jesus, and then a little bed of hay that's going to be going in over his cradle. And that's how it goes together. And I painted the base of the cradle brown on the bottom and blue on the top. I just used the sponge and my agave paint, and then the staining method on the bottom with my brown antique wax. I used a flesh colored marker for his face after I painted it white, and I did a hazelnut paint on the straw. Here I'm just doing the marker over the white face, again to get that flesh colored appearance. Use whatever flesh tone you have on hand. Mine is that ballerina pink that I'm using, and then I go over it with either a sponge or a Q-tip to kind of blend it in. If any paint gets in the little details of his face, I just scrape it out with that detail pen that came in the kit. And I am going to adhere the face to the little circle outline that is there. And if you'll notice on the blanket, there's some little detail too. When I painted that, I used the pen to scrape out on those scored lines. And then I'm adhering the little straw at the top of his cradle. And then baby Jesus is ready to go into the nativity scene next to Mary. And this is another one that works really good with the little stands that come in the set. The final piece that will be going into our little mini manger will be Joseph. He looks like this when he's all finished. He has a cane, a base, an overlay for his hat and beard, and then his mustache, and it all goes together like this in another layered piece. Here's how I painted up the pieces individually for Joseph. I used this fern green on everything except for his face. I did that with a base of white, and then I went over that with my flesh colored marker. I did his hat in the fern green, and then the rim of the hat and his beard in the brown stain, and I did the hazelnut on his mustache, and then I used my silver marker and bronze marker to give some extra accents on him. So I am taking my silver marker and I am doing that on the brim of his hat, so it looks like the band on his hat or veil it per se is going to have that silver trim, and I'm doing the same thing on the belt portion. Those portions I went ahead and scored really good after I painted with my pen. I am doing flesh colored on the hand portion of his cane. I did that in a base of white so the flesh color will show up well. And then I'm just blending all that, and if it goes over a little, it's a little bleed over with that flesh colored paint, it's fine on his face because the hat and beard do cover it up. Now on the rest of his cane, I'm doing that kind of bronzy colored marker. And then that is done. And again, I painted the mustache with that hazelnut paint and a Q-tip. So now we're going to put him together. So the first thing I like to do is get the beard and hat adhered to him. And that just lines right up with the top of the base piece. He's starting to come together nicely. And I'll probably use one of my little mini clamps to hold him, or not. Next we'll do the mustache, and that has a little bump out where it lines up at the top of the beard. And then there is a little outline for you to look at for exact placement on the cane as well. Put a little dot on the cane in hand, and then that goes and just lines up with the bottom. And this is what Joseph looks like when he is completed, and then he will go into the manger with Mary and baby Jesus. One piece that we will be doing for our Nativity extra set is this Bethlehem Landscape for the square sign insert. It comes with a base, an overlay with the building and the palm trees, and then etched into the base are the placement for the 3 stars that you'll be putting on the piece. And it all fits in this frame. So on the base you'll see you've got an etched part. I do the top part in blue and the bottom part in brown, and then I do on the base piece some etched, some ombre effect for the sand. Now the first thing I'm going to do on the base is this gold on the inside of each one of these little parts, because when you put that over the little window openings, it'll look like there's a little bit of gold or light coming out of each one of them. Then what I'm going to do is take a blue marker and a brown marker and fill in the rest of that base. So I did blue on the top, and if you want you could do a couple of shades of blue and get a really pretty night ombre effect. And then I did a brown marker around on the base, just avoiding where the actual windows are that I colored in gold. And you can kind of see you don't have to do the whole thing. You can just keep putting that overlay on there to make sure you have good coverage. So on the overlay itself, I did the whole thing first in white so my markers would show up, and so it would be easy to do that ombre effect for the sand. And I colored a dark green on the palm tree leaves, and then a dark brown on the trunks or stems of the palm trees. Then I'm taking 2 colors of brown, kind of a bronze and a copper, and I'm blending those 2 together at the bottom. And there is that line there that I'm using for my guide to stop, where the sand ends and then the building begins. And I'm just, while those markers are wet, I'm working fairly fast, and I'm just kind of blending it in. And if you wanted to further blend it, you could take your sponge or a Q-tip to blend it in a little bit more, but I don't mind having that delineation. So then once that is done, I am doing a glue application on the back of the overlay, and it lines up directly with the bottom edge of the piece and then on the right and left sides. And I'm using the clamps that came with your kit to adhere them. Then I am putting some glue on the back of the larger of the 3 stars, and there is an etched part where that goes. And then I'm doing the same thing with the 2 smaller stars, placing a bit of glue on those and then putting them on their etched placement. And when it's all done, you have this lovely piece that will go in the frame, and then your sign will be complete and be ready to display with the rest of the nativity set. Well, that's it, creative friends. We have reached the end of another box, gotten all our projects made, and it's time to enjoy them until the next box comes out. If you are interested in getting on that wait list to learn more about our subscription box, the link is in the description below, and I'll be happy to send you some email and sneak peeks about the next box. In the meantime, give this channel a like and subscribe, and I'm going to play a little video that shows you how we staged everything. and I'm anxious to see how your kits turned out. Thanks so much for joining us, and join us again for the Spring 2024 box that will come out in February 2024. Thanks, and don't forget to look for the loon.